Up YouTube, it's Sam from Sam's Garden Maintenance, and what a absolutely beautiful morning it is today. Now we're about halfway through March, and I'll be honest with you, so far this has been the worst March on record, and well, that's a story for another time. But in this video today, I want to talk to you about what I think is probably one of the worst questions we can get asked as a self-employed gardener. It's not so much the question, I'll be honest with you, it's normally the people who ask the question, and it's normally the after. It never gets the response that you want. It's almost akin as getting the last word in, you know, with somebody argumentative. It never goes the sort of way you want it to. So the question I'm on about is actually, how did you get to that price, or what do you base your pricing on? Now I'll be honest with you, the question is, why is it that much, sometimes comes up, and it's perfectly legitimate. You know, you could have it where there could be things that us as professionals will spot and the people who live there will not, and then they're totally surprised. So, oh, could you do this job? And you're knowing, well, I've got to dig this over, I've got to dig that out, I've got to add this, I've got to add that, I've got to buy that to do this, you know. And sometimes people don't know that, so when they ask, well, it's perfectly, you know, it's a reasonable sort of response. And there's no harm in telling them. I think if you're cagey over it, you know, it is what it is. But I'll be honest with you, even with anything, you're sort of damned with some people. But I try and alleviate that, or as much of that as I possibly can, in the quoting process, basically. So I will go through all this and I'll say, look, you want me to dig this out, but I don't know what's under there. It could be one where, you know, looking at the ground, there's lots of rubble, blah blah blah, you know, and I try and nip it in the bud basically there and then, opposed to you know, them questioning after the fact. Now there's another thing when I do my pricing that again, I try and avoid getting into it, but I try and charge a fair, reasonable price. I'm not the cheapest gardener, but I'm not the most expensive. I like to land somewhere in the middle, but towards the higher end of the middle. Because at the end of the day, I'm here, you know, to provide for my future. I am not, you know, just some chap that just wants to make a little bit of money on the side. But sometimes people want people like that. Now, the problem is that sometimes you hear other people say, and I think it's a trade sort of thing where, and I think it's not just our industry, it's all other industries, and basically, if it's a job that people don't want to do, they will just price high, and if they get the job, the quid's in. If they don't, well, they are basically, you know, not losing anything. It's a fuck off price. You have it everywhere. You have it in industry, you have it in manufacturing, you know, trades, plumber, sparks, anything. It's called a fuck off price. Now me personally, I don't do them. I'd much rather tell the customer no, or I can't provide a quote, I haven't got time, I'm not suitable, you know, pick any excuse you want. Because how I see it is if I overprice and I get the job, then I'm still stuck doing a job that I don't really want to do. But it's got the added caveat that the customer's paying over the odds, and they're going to expect over the odds because that's what they paid. Sometimes people are oblivious and you basically might just wing it, but you're still doing that shit job that you don't want to do. So that's another thing. Basically what all this is building up to is, I can't understand why people question the price sometimes, and I'll be honest with you, it's never on big jobs, it's always on small little jobs what people will question the price. So grass cuts or border work, stuff like that, always small amounts. It's always been under £100, you know, under £50 sometimes, where people have said, how do you get to that price? I can't understand, or stuff like that. So we've got there now, and I'll give you a couple of scenarios. Now, I do a little two sort of pronged way of doing it. And now, if it is the first time they ask, I'll just say to them, well, look, it's not so much about, I'll give any one of these excuses, but it's normally a mix of them. I basically say, look, it's not the price you're paying, it's what you're getting in return. I says, you can get somebody in who'll charge you to just do the lawn and he'll whiz them over it. I says, but here you're getting professional service, whether it's a lawn or borders. It says it's done with an attention to detail. It's not so much what you'll be charged, but it's what value I'll be leaving behind. You will get sort of lasting results with it, depending what you do. And like I said, some people are fine with this, and that's enough for them, and they can basically say, yeah, that's fine, no problem, I just wondered. But then I'll be honest with you, some people, you have to then sort of go on to the next one. And I think if we're going on to the next one, you've already lost a battle. You're not going to educate people, and that's what I try and do. Try and educate. I try and just give people the facts. I never just say, well, that's the price. You know, that's up to me to work out. This is the price, take it or leave it. Well, you know, and the rights to do that. At the end of the day, you go to Tesco, you don't like the price of the beans, you can leave it behind. You don't have to buy it. But sometimes, you know, whether it's a bit of naivety in my own, I think, oh, I'll just try and educate them or something along those lines, and it never ever works out the way you think it does. And I'll just give you the examples, and I'll be honest with you, it's getting now where I'm just going to say, well, that is the price, it's up to you whether you want it, or something along them lines, because I hate going into it, because it's like they're questioning everything. And it's not so much the fact that they're questioning everything, it's what happens afterwards, in terms of, you're not going to get the job anyway, you've just sat there and wasted 10 minutes of your life, and that's what annoys me the most. So what I do, you know, if I want to cling on to the customer, or I feel like educating them, whatever, is I will just explain to them, and I'll give you this one scenario, because it applies to all of them, I think. Now, if a customer says to me, how did you get to that price? Or I had it before where I was doing some work for a lady. I did about 3 months of grass cutting for her, never been a problem. She took me on as a weekly. Grass was growing fine, cutting the grass, not a problem. And then during peak summertime, basically the drought, the heat wave, whatever, the grass stopped growing. It didn't die. It stayed green, but it just did not grow at all. And it got to the point where I was mowing dust. Now, as you know, any gardener, if you're getting £60 a week for about an hour's work, they're going to keep trying to get that. And she's been happy with it up until now, but I wasn't, because I couldn't see where I was cut. And I'll be honest with you, it was wasting their money, if you want me to be brutally honest with you, because the grass, it looked different because you could see the wheel marks, but it didn't look much different. So what I ended up saying to her is, look, how about we go to every 2 weeks just to give the grass a chance to perk up? She says, oh no, it's alright, I like it cutting once a week, I like it short. Fair enough. My conscience was clear, you know, crack on. So I did. That happened for about another 2 or 3 visits. And then it says that she come out and she said to me, I'm just wondering, how is it you come to your pricing? Because I've thought about it, and I'm paying you £60 an hour. Now, that's not technically true. She's making a situation to fit her own situation, and it isn't true. Now, I explained to her that you're not paying me £60 an hour. She says, well, I am, because you're only here an hour and I'm paying you £60. I says, yes, but when I first started the grass, I was here for 2 hours. I says, the price didn't alter then, you weren't charged £120, we charged £60. Yeah, but now I'm paying you £60 an hour. And So you can see where this conversation is going, and I think this happens with all of them. Everyone I have, it's the same dead stare, and you're just wasting your time. So she says, well, how is it you get to this? I can't understand it. I used to be in business, and I think £60 is ridiculous. So I re-explained to her that, well, you took the price at the start, so you were happy to pay it. I says to you, just a matter of interest, if I was here for 3 hours cutting your grass, would you be happy? She says, well, yeah, because I'm getting more from you. I'm getting more of your time. I says, but the grass would look exactly the same. You'd still get the same result. Yeah, but you would have been here for 3 hours. So, anyway, so that was enough really, but she kept pressing. I says to her, well, like I said, at the start I was here for 2 hours, but now the grass isn't growing so much, so I'm flying over it quicker and quicker. I did offer you to go to a fortnightly, but you refused. She says, yeah, but how is it you're charging me £60 an hour? She says, well, whichever way you look at it, you're not paying me £60 an hour. I says, I'm charging you £60, I'm here an hour. I says, the first time I come, I was here 2 hours. I says, it's just so happens that, you know, I've got quicker, the grass has slowed down, it's not so much of a problem. And she says, yeah, well, you're charging me £60 an hour. I says, well, no, I'm not getting £60. I says, you've got to remember, and this is what I try and do, try and educate in air quotes. Says, Luke, says that's £60. The government will take £12 of that in tax, 20%. Probably a little bit more for tax and national insurance. Yes, I was in business myself. I says, well, I have travel time. I says it's half an hour here, half an hour back. So I'm taking 2 hours out of my day. So suddenly I'm on £24 an hour. I says, I've got to provide a mower, so I've got to buy a mower to do the job. It's £1,000. I've got to buy a strimmer, a blower, whatever else I need, that's more money. I says, I've got to put it in a van, that's more money out of £24. I've got to insure, tax, MOT, that's more money to cut out of that money. I says, and then after all my business costs, I've got to then provide for my future, so pension. I says, also sick pay, holiday pay. I says, and then after I've done all that, I've then got to try and live off that, whatever's left. And she says, the best of all says, yeah, but it's still £60 an hour. So basically, I'd wasted my time, and this is what the point I'm getting to. When you get into it with people like this, you are wasting your time. You may as well go and pick a tree. You can pick anyone you want and have that conversation with them. And I know it sounds horrible, I know it sounds rude, but that's the facts. It is. That is the bare bone facts of the matter. That it's just is what it is, and it's so utterly frustrating. It really, really frustrates me to the point that it just browns me off. I'll be honest with you. As soon as I get on to the second stage, I am pretty much automatically saying in my head, walk away, Sam, walk away, you're wasting your time. And like I said at the start, if it was big amounts, I would be honestly more understanding, but it's always small amounts. It's always people questioning over a £20 lawn cut, over, you know, a £30 hedge cut, you name it, it's always these little diddly amounts. So I hope this video's helped you guys, if I'm being honest with you. I hope it's not been a bit too thingy, but we've all dealt with it, so we all know where we're coming from. So have a good day, guys, and as usual, keep on gardening.